Ladies and gentlemen, I know a couple of people that are unemployed, like many people in this country. They didn't quit, they lost their job due to COVID 19, like many people around the US. Well, they still can't collect unemployment, they've been denied. I don't think anybody that had a job should be denied, especially if you lost it due to, the pandemic. I think this government should pay those people. I don't think anybody should be excluded at all. But this is happening, and it's happening to many people in the Black community. So this is ProPublica, August 24th, 2020. Black workers are more likely to be unemployed, but less likely to get unemployment benefits. Wow. More people than ever became eligible for unemployment benefits after Congress included part-time and gig workers. But the data shows that hasn't solved a huge racial disparity. Here's why. A record number of Americans are receiving unemployment insurance during the pandemic. That's because of the enormous scale of job loss, but also because Congress greatly expanded the number of workers eligible for benefits. For the first time, thanks to the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, part-timers, independent contractors, and gig workers qualify for unemployment payments. Black workers are overrepresented in these non-traditional positions, which in the past has contributed to making them less likely to receive unemployment payments than other groups. Yet, despite the expansion of eligibility, a smaller percentage of unemployed Black workers are receiving unemployment benefits than white workers during the pandemic, according to the national survey data. And this data came out from the University of Chicago. 13% of Black workers received such payment between April and June, compared with 22% for Hispanic workers and 24% for white workers. During the pandemic, white unemployed workers have been more likely to receive unemployment benefits, according to an analysis of national survey data. Black unemployed workers were about half as likely to receive such benefits. In every recession, we see the same disparity, said William Spriggs, a Howard University economist who analyzed the data. After the 2008 financial crisis, for example, 23.8% of the jobless Black workers received unemployment versus 33.2% for white workers, according to a 2012 study of the national claims data by the Urban Institute. Some of the continuing disparity is explained by the geography, according to Michelle Evermore, a senior policy analyst with the National Employment Law Project. Many states have made it more difficult to access benefits in recent years. In the 1950s, an average of 50% of jobless people were able to regularly access benefits. By the end of 2019, that average had fallen to 28% of workers. The states that have made the deepest cuts to their unemployment program are more likely to be in the South and have a higher share of Black residents. In states such as Florida and North Carolina, fewer than 12% of jobless individuals received benefits last year. Many states have severely limited who is eligible for benefits. In the South, other states, so they're saying there are other states in the South that also made it tougher for people to get unemployment. Okay. And benefits for those who receive them are less generous. Among those who receive unemployment benefits in 2018, and the program replaced 36% of lost wages in Louisiana, compared with 53% in Iowa. The share of jobless residents who are Black is higher in the South. As a result, the weaker benefits in those states disproportionately affect Black unemployed workers. These lower rates perpetuates themselves. People in states with restrictive benefits are often deterred from applying for them, research shows, because they perceive themselves to be ineligible, whether or not they actually are. Moreover, workers who have been historically excluded because they are temporary employees or work on call may not know the new pandemic assistance program exists. Therefore, they may not bother to apply for benefits at all. Yeah, that's very true. You know, if you had an unconventional type job, um, where you may had to be called when work was available, that type of thing, then you have to go out and specifically apply for, the PUA, what they call it, pandemic unemployment assistance. If you don't apply for that program and you just go to regular unemployment and apply that way, you'll get turned down. Okay, the inequality in unemployment benefits is all the more damaging because Black workers have been more likely to be unemployed in both the current downturn and past recessions. Even when the economy is healthy, Black unemployment is dramatically higher, often double that of white workers. The gap cannot be explained by gender, age, or education level. Well, systematic racism. I mean, come on, what else could it be? Is one group and not everybody else? Systematic racism. Black workers are overrepresented in the transit and service industry jobs currently deemed essential. The rate of Black unemployment today would be even worse. Black households have long suffered from lower wages, lower income, and fewer assets to fall back on than white households, because Black households have 1/10 of the wealth of white households. It's that much more important that unemployment insurance kick in to reduce the different experiences across these racial groups, said Damon Jones. Okay, so I'm not surprised about this. Like I said, I know a few people that applied for unemployment and they were turned down. And it's very much what they're talking about in this article. Even when Black workers do obtain benefits, they often receive smaller payments than white workers, since the benefits are determined by salary, and Black workers earn less at every education level. If your historical earnings reflect labor market discrimination, you're going to get hit with lower benefits, said Jared Bernstein, a fellow at the Center for Budget and Policy Priorities. The underlying formulas of the system reflects this historical discrimination. Black workers are also more likely to exhaust the standard 26-week benefits than white counterparts because they tend to stay unemployed longer than their white peers. Again, systematic racism. Job discrimination in the labor market and fewer workplace protections mean that Black workers are typically the first to lose their jobs and the last to get them back. If the long-standing gulf suggests a two-tier unemployment system that's by design. You wonder why the system is so messy and complicated, Jones said. And then you look back in the history and you see the origins of some of these barriers were driven by racism and xenophobia. Okay. Um, the Social Security Act established unemployment insurance in 1935 as a joint federal state system. It had a narrow definition of who deserved benefits: full-time breadwinners who had been monetarily laid off but would return to work as soon as business picked up. This definition deliberately excluded agriculture and domestic worker jobs held predominantly by Black Americans from its start. Yeah, well, I'm not surprised. Everything excludes us. Historians, except for war, they don't exclude us from war, y'all. That's the one thing they don't exclude us from. Historians have debated the extent to which these exclusions stem from racial discrimination, but whatever the motivation, the origins definition had a disparity of 65% of Black workers fell outside the reach of the new program. And in parts of the South, that number went up to 80%, according to Larry DeWitt, a former historian for the Social Security Administration. The economy has racially changed, but the unemployment system has remained largely the same. Domestic workers and farm workers were included in the 1950s amendment to the bill. Our unemployment system has not kept up with the changing demographics of the American labor force, Spriggs said. It's been decades since employers began abandoning traditional job practices in which full-time staffers put in 40 hours a week in favor to part-time arrangements and independent contractors. One study from the National Bureau of Economic Research found all the net employment growth in the United States from 2010 to 2015 took place through what's called precarious arrangements, temporary help agency work, on-call work, contractor work, and independent contracting. Such arrangements account for 40% of all jobs, according to estimates in a 2015 report, and are expected to increase as the economy emerges from the pandemic. Yeah, well, whatever. We ain't emerging from nothing. Despite the pandemic assistance program passed by Congress in March, the outdated visions of employment in the state's unemployment system continues to put Black, Hispanic, and female workers at a disadvantage. These workers not only disproportionately hold on-call, temp, or contingent positions, they also get shut out of the system because they are more likely than white men to work sporadically or leave work for childcare, scenario that render them ineligible for benefits. Meanwhile, the pandemic program that expands unemployment eligibility is temporary. It expires on December 31st. So far, the various rounds of negotiation and extending congressional funding for unemployment have not focused on continuing the expanded eligibility. Economists like Evermore have called for legislation that would permanently include contingent workers and increase the amount of duration of benefits. The continuing inequities, she said, make the nation's unemployment system far less effective at countering recessions than it could be. Well, the system sucks. You know, I was looking at some of the articles where people that were collecting unemployment, I was looking at some amounts that just left me shaking my head. I read one of a man that got COVID-19. He landed in the hospital and he was getting $115 a week. This country should be ashamed of itself, paying something that low in this kind of economy. You know, nobody can make it on that. And then I saw one that was even worse. I was reading one out of Florida, and this woman was getting $90 a week. You know damn well the American economy is so inflated, you can't make it on those kind of benefits. But that's what that's what some people in this country are getting. Nobody should be getting anything that low. That is outrageous. But y'all, please tell me what you think. Many of the systems like Florida, it has not been updated for decades. So whatever amount they gave them, like back in the 80s and 90s, those people are still getting those same amounts. And we know the cost of living has gone up over the last 40 years or 30 years. That is ridiculous. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.